Let's talk about Moses and the Ten Commandments. This is one of the most iconic moments in history. Moses ascending Mount Sinai, communing with the divine, and returning with two stone tablets inscribed with sacred laws. Let's ask a deeper question. Who really gave these laws to Moses? And what do they represent for us today? Why did Moses, after receiving something so sacred, smash those tablets in an act of destruction? Tradition tells us that the commandments came from Yahweh, the God of the Israelites. But we have to look more closely at this. If we step into an enlightened perspective, we can see that Yahweh, as depicted in the texts, isn't necessarily the ultimate creator, the infinite source of all life. Esoteric teachings often refer to Yahweh as the Demiurge, a flawed, jealous God who believes himself to be the creator, but who is disconnected from the true divine source. So let's unpack this. Moses, having led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, found himself facing a people who were not just physically lost, but spiritually adrift. They had spent years in bondage, and that experience had shaped their minds, hearts, and souls. They didn't have a clear sense of moral or spiritual direction, and that's where the need for divine guidance became urgent. Moses climbs Mount Sinai, disappearing into a cloud of divine mystery, seeking wisdom for his people. Up there, he receives the Ten Commandments, laws meant to guide the Israelites, to pull them from chaos and bring them into order. But here's the key question. Again, who really gave these commandments to Moses? Was it Yahweh, the God demanding obedience and exclusive worship? Or was it a higher intelligence, a universal divine presence, trying to speak through a flawed, lower-level entity? The first few commandments gives us a clue. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. This is not the voice of an enlightened, omniscient creator, but the voice of a jealous God, one who demands worship, one who feels threatened by the idea of other gods. The true creator, the source of all life and energy, doesn't demand anything. It simply exists. It is. There's no need for worship because the true creator knows that everything is already part of the divine. There is no ego, no insecurity, and no need to control. Yahweh's commandments, particularly the ones about worship, reflect the nature of the Demiurge. This is a God operating from a place of fear and control, a God who seeks power over humanity rather than liberating it. And yet, mixed in with these commands are universal truths, principles that resonate with deeper cosmic laws. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. These align with the natural order of harmony, justice, and respect for all life. These are not the exclusive domains of Yahweh, but truths that transcend him. Truths that exist in the fabric of the universe itself. So, Moses descends from Mount Sinai with these tablets in hand, sacred laws meant to elevate the people, but what does he find? The Israelites have already lost their way. In his absence, they've constructed a golden calf and fallen into idol worship, just as they had in Egypt. They're still trapped in the mindset of slavery, looking for something physical to worship, something tangible they can see and touch, instead of connecting to the unseen divine essence that led them out of Egypt. And here's where the story takes a powerful turn. Moses, filled with rage, sees the people's betrayal, their inability to comprehend the divine truths he's just received. In a moment of frustration and perhaps a moment of deep realization, he smashes the stone tablets, destroying the very laws that had been handed down to him. But why? Why would Moses destroy something so sacred? It wasn't just anger. He recognized that the people were not ready to receive these commandments. They were still too attached to the old ways of thinking, still too focused on external symbols of faith like the golden calf, rather than connecting to the deeper, internal truths these commandments represented. You could say they weren't spiritually mature enough to grasp the higher meaning behind the laws. Smashing the tablets was symbolic. It was Moses acknowledging that the people needed inner transformation before they could live by these divine principles. But there's another layer here. Moses may have realized that the source of the commandments itself was flawed. The demand for worship, the insistence on Yahweh's supremacy. These weren't the words of an enlightened creator, but of a jealous God. He may have sensed that while some of these laws were virtuous, others were rooted in the Demiurge's desire for control, rather than in the liberation of the soul. So, deeper implications of all this. The Ten Commandments, when we break them down from an enlightened perspective, reveal two things: universal truths about living in harmony with each other and the world, and the flaws of a jealous God who requires worship and obedience. Yahweh's jealousy, his need to be the one and only, reflects the nature of the Demiurge, a false god who seeks to bind humanity in a system of control, rather than guide them towards true spiritual freedom. Smashing the tablets was more than a reaction to people's idolatry. It was an acknowledgement that these laws given by Yahweh were incomplete. They couldn't fully liberate the people. The true creator, the divine essence that exists beyond Yahweh, doesn't need to impose law or demand worship. It simply invites us to be, to recognize our own divinity, to align with the cosmic order without fear or control. Moses would later go up Mount Sinai and receive his second set of tablets. But what's key here is that the story represents a deeper spiritual lesson. External laws and commandments can only take us so far. True transformation, true liberation comes from within. The people needed to evolve, to awaken, see beyond the demands of a jealous God and recognize the divine within themselves. Humanfluence out.